That's the good stuff right here. Hard, soft literature. Yeah. I mean, sort of, kind of. I tell you what, I'll think I'll check it out. You know, I'm not normally one to destroy books, but I'm just kind of big for it. Hiya folks, Fruit and Doggy here to do another book discussion, and this time I'm discussing The Christian and the Pharisee, and this is written by two individuals, Dr. R.T. Kendall and Rabbi David Rosen, and what the cover shows or mentions is two outspoken religious leaders debate the road to heaven. I'm just going to read the summary, but I will mention the copyright is 2007, and there is just about 150 pages if you don't include appendix and glossary. But anyways, reading the summary. In a genuine search for mutual understanding, two leading religious figures communicate through powerful letters in The Christian and the Pharisee. Through a unique and rare exchange of letters, an evangelical preacher, R.T. Kendall, and a senior Jewish rabbi, David Rosen, openly discuss and debate their views on heaven and how we get there. This groundbreaking book offers an opportunity to read the heartfelt correspondence of these two prolific and acclaimed theologians as they vigorously defend their own beliefs while they challenge each other's claims. Despite living in a time of tumultuous religious division, the two leaders develop a refreshing and deep mutual respect and forge a strong friendship through the questions asked and answered. As the men encounter seemingly irreconcilable differences in beliefs, the Christian and the Pharisee shows how the little they do share allows them to form strong alliances, a lesson that is crucial to a world in crisis. So, the way this book is organized is written is that instead of kind of a traditional chapter system, it's just broken down between their different letters to each other. So letter 1, letter 2, letter 3, so on and so forth. And they vary in length, but they're typically 5 to 10 pages. They're not, overly encumbered. And I will mention that when I was first looking at this book, I had a very different concept in mind based on the title, because from a Christian perspective, when I think of the term Pharisee, my mindset automatically goes to the New Testament when Jesus routinely denounced the Pharisees. But it turns out that at least this Jewish rabbi, he actually describes himself as a modern Pharisee. And so it's basically saying that it's a certain, I'm going to use the word sect, or a group within Judaism, sort of kind of just a different perspective or a different concept within the Jewish faith. And again, even within Pharisees, there's going to be further divisions, further delineations beyond that. And if nothing else, I just thought it was an interesting thing to learn that, if nothing else. And a little bit more background with these two gentlemen. They encountered each other prior to writing each other letters, and I guess they developed a pretty strong mutual respect for each other. And that's why they started these letter correspondences to each other. And I'll admit that the concept and the basis of the book sounds interesting. This concept where they'd be going back and forth and having an open exchange of ideas, exploring each other's perspectives, learning more, and then challenging each other's different beliefs and ideas. But I felt that it was too unorganized. Because it seemed that in the letters that they were writing to each other, they kept having to rehash ground that I thought would have been clear at a certain point. And I think this is where their expertise, but also their ignorance of one another's real beliefs and positions, was a hindrance. And so what I'm basically getting at is, though they are expert within their own realm, you know, the Christian, he is well versed in the Bible, and again, I don't know these two individuals' reputations beyond what I read in the book, but it seems like they are distinguished. It seems that they are knowledgeable about their individual religions. But again, it's a self-contained knowledge. So the guy who's the Christian, he knows all about Christianity, and then the shared degree of belief with Jews to an extent, but it's a very passy knowledge. It's a very light knowledge of Judaism. And then same goes with the Pharisee. He has a general concept of what Christians believe and think, but you know, he was asking questions and curious about how American Christians could believe certain things that he thought was quite strange, such as how Christians, some evangelical Christians, view Jews differently and in ways that he wouldn't expect. And I guess part of the issue I should mention is that Christian is an American background, United States background, and then the Jewish individual, he is from Israel, and so his reference point is that part of the world, the Middle East, as opposed to here in the States. And so I guess that's my main issue with the book, is that though they can provide plenty of information in regards to their own religious beliefs, and then that guides how they question and discuss matters about the other person's, because they know so much about their own, they get a little too nitpicky, they get a bit too persnickety, and have to, it's so academic, so they spend a lot of time just trying to describe and explain and resolve matters that at a certain point I got kind of tired of reading about that. It's like, he already wrote that in his previous letter, and I understand maybe there still needs to be a little bit of a clarification, but it just showcased how this style of communication, this way that they just copy and pasted the letters right over without any editorializing, without cleaning up issues and, you know, streamlining the process at all, it just made it very difficult to read. I actually gave up on the book despite its short length, because I just got tired of that back and forth and the tedium of them seeming to slog through issues and not get very far. I didn't even actually make it through the halfway point, or I made it just shy of the halfway point. I didn't even get that far. And I was really interested in the concept. I was very curious to learn more about the Jewish perspective in this sort of material, or in this sort of fashion, because with my background as a Christian, I thought this would be sort of a nice way to learn more about the Jewish faith through that filter of somebody having that open dialogue and conversation and discussion with a Jewish person, you know, a rabbi, in that I could kind of flow back and forth, and as I learned more about this particular person's Christian faith, I could, you know, make some minor tweaks, like, oh yeah, I don't quite agree with that entirely, or I'm more or less on the same page, and so I could just make those small adjustments and kind of put myself into his perspective as I learn more about Judaism, you know, directly from, kind of like from the fountainhead, how it's, because with Christians and Jews, we use the same resource of the Old Testament, but that doesn't mean that we interpret it the same way. That's why we don't. Excuse me. Especially, and then of course, with Christians we have the New Testament, and then I don't actually. That's something a very simple thing in regards to the New Testament. I don't know if Jews read that at all. If they interpret that as Jesus was another prophet. That's something I'm not really familiar with. Excuse me. Excuse me again. And with this book being written, or the letters that they were sending to each other in the early 2000s, again, I would have expected them to have to hash some of these aspects out. That's the whole point of their communication back and forth. But at some point, I would have expected them to rely on the internet to check some other resources and perhaps source out some of these questions that they were asking each other. You know, so they could say, it's like, hey, I did a basic Google search. I looked this up online. This was a general summary I found dealing with this, or this issue, or, you know, this, so they could maybe refer to a website that they found. It's like, hey, does this seem like a pretty good summary? Is there a point where you disagree with that? Does that seem pretty accurate? Because that would be a way to perhaps communicate about these issues without having to deal with this monotonous back and forth that, again, it got too slogged in details. And also, they use very flowery language, and I don't mean that in a romantic sense, but I mean that in a, they were very positive, they were very, I'll use the phrase heavy-handed in their compliments, very, I don't think I'm using this word right, effusive with their compliments. That doesn't sound quite right, but it's close. But very generous with their compliments, providing each other praise, and, you know, saying things along the lines of, hey, you know, I feel honored, I feel blessed to have this conversation with you, and I welcome you to challenge me, and you don't have to apologize for your tone. But at a certain point, they kept saying that so much that it started to sound defensive or disingenuous. If you, I think the phrase, you protest too strongly, comes to mind. I phrase that a little off. Doth protestest too much, I think is a better way to phrase that, or the stereotypical way I think of that expression. But anyways, they just seem so, I don't know the best way to put it, but it just didn't quite ring true. It just stopped being genuine at a certain point where they just had to keep heaping praise on each other instead of just getting to the point a bit more. And I will admit, with my personality, I'm a bit more cold. I probably don't let people know enough how much I care about them. I'm not, you know, a very complimentary individual, but I don't know. I think there's just something there that seemed kind of passive aggressive after a certain point. But that was my take on it. I couldn't get too far into it because, you know, when you're just trying to work through the basics of their different belief positions, how do you ever get to any real meat? How do you get to anything of substance when here they are rehashing an issue that they started off 2 or 3 letters ago that they can't quite let go of because, well, here's how I see it, and here's another quote from the Bible I'm going to pull out, and how do you address that challenge? Well, here's how I address that challenge. Oh, okay, but how about this? And it's like, just stop! But anyways, I'm going to take my own advice there. I really hate to say burn it to this style of book, but again, from a person who doesn't know very much about Judaism, especially kind of, I'll say, in modern times, and whether they even go beyond the Old Testament or not, and how they interpret, I was about to say the Bible, but I suppose it'd actually be the Torah. I mean, I just feel so ignorant that this wasn't a great introduction to Judaism, trying to learn more about it, our shared bases and our differing beliefs. And I know there has to be other materials that would do a much better job. So I just don't think this has got a great place. And I'm sure anybody who would know more about both faith beliefs would probably just be shaking their hands like, oh, why are you guys getting so bogged down on this? It's like, move on. But anyways, I can't recommend this. But of course, that's only one person's perspective, and there's two people in the book, so, you know, I'm outnumbered. They liked their letters. But anyways, have a good one, folks. See you later.